President Trump is once again claiming that a breakthrough between the US and Iran is around the corner. So this has happened before, and Donald Trump now again declaring that a peace deal with Iran is imminent. Oil prices have been falling, markets have been cheering, the world has been sighing relief. But when we speak of Iran, Iran says, well, too soon, it's not yet finalized. Iran and the United States, however, reported to have agreed to a wording of an initial agreement aimed at ending the war in the Middle East, with mediators working with both sides to finalize a deal. However, on part of the Iranian side, Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister, has said that as part of the agreement, the two sides, however, have agreed to respect each other's sovereignty, saying that this is one of the most important provisions of the agreement. The emerging deal, which is also reportedly expected to pave way for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and the phased lifting of the sanctions on Iran and the release of the frozen Iranian assets. Now, Araghchi has also been saying that Israel was not part of the negotiating table, saying that they will not negotiate with the enemies. And a minister, however, of Iran has indicated that the MOU will be followed by talks on terms that deal with Iran's nuclear program that would be finalized in about 60 days after the initial agreement was reached. So initial agreement talks only, Srinjoy, that seems to only indicate that the conflict will come to an end, but the disagreements on both sides will still continue.
Theoretically, the conflict has come to an end in the sense that you have a ceasefire. But of course, if there is an agreement and between both sides, that makes life easier for everybody. So that agreement says yes to everything. Should we open the Strait of Hormuz? Yes. Should the blockade be lifted? Yes. Should there be the discussion on the 400 plus kilos of enriched uranium? Yes. So all of those issues, including should there be lifting of sanctions? Yes. Should money be returned to Iran that is stuck in banks? Yes. So there are yeses there, but it has to be agreed upon. As you rightly said, you used the word initial agreement. So it is an initial agreement. Both sides have to agree to this draft. Only then will you have an initial agreement. And there's been people have gone forwards and backwards again and again. So till it is done, it is not done. Everyone hopes it will get done. Everyone wants it to get done. But at this point, it hasn't got done. And till it gets done, it isn't done.
Well, obviously, because we are now still looking at initial agreement there. This something is both sides, however, seems to be agreeing upon. But, speaking of President Trump, this deal should have been actually signed last week when he was again giving the indication that a deal is almost, nearing the end and finalizing it. But again, the question of the conflict resuming had taken place with these latest strikes that was also carried out by the United States in Iran, and also Iran launching the counter strikes on Israel. But speaking of President Trump, he seems to have launched another blistering attack on Iran, accusing Tehran of spreading misinformation about the proposed peace agreement and acting in bad faith. So President Trump rejecting reports carried out by the Iranian media saying that the leaked terms bear no resemblance to what was actually agreed upon in writing. He went on to describe the Iranian negotiators as dishonorable and has claimed that there was no such thing as dealing in good faith with them. Now, President Trump is not happy in the way that he believes that if there are certain reports going around as proposed leaks of this agreement, well, he says that what is on paper and what has now been agreed upon by the two sides is very different from what is being put out by the Iranian state media. But there is another big claim that is now coming in from Pakistan, which in this conflict is playing the role of a mediator, rather more of a messenger, because here the Pakistani Prime Minister has also come out with a statement saying that the United States and Iran deal, he has now said that it has now been finally agreed upon, the text of the peace deal that has been reached, and Pakistan is closely working with both sides to finalize the next steps. And Shehbaz Sharif was of the opinion that peace has never been this close as it is now. Now, Pakistan, the so-called mediator in the US-Iran deal, is of the opinion that it is almost certain, Srinjoy, that a peace deal will be signed very soon. So that seems to be the only role that Pakistan here seems to be playing.
Well, let a peace deal get signed, first of all. Then we will see what a messenger did and didn't do. because President Trump has once spoken about bombing Iran into the Stone Age. And then, of course, he said a deal was being cut and it was imminent. Then he said civilization would end overnight. And then subsequently he said that he was ready to do a deal. Then he said the deal is almost done, it will be signed in Europe. Then he has blamed Iran. The whole point is, when you're dealing with something as sensitive as this, normally speaking, things are below radar. There is radio silence about the back and forth situations. You don't talk about what is being discussed inside that room. Once you do, then it becomes a little more embarrassing for the other side. Now, the ideal situation, when you're doing a deal which is as sensitive as this one, is to be completely below radar. Now, is it possible? America is a democracy, a vibrant democracy, and President Trump continues to say whatever he wishes to every evening almost. So as a result, this is something which becomes more difficult. The Iranians too have been coming up with statements. This recent 14-point plan came out of the Iranian side.
Yes.
It was in the Iranian state
media. But time and again, they have been raising several issues and demands that have now been kept forth. And one by one, it seems that President Trump wasn't really happy in the way that Iran has been trying to set the terms and conditions, saying that both sides already which have declared decisive victory. However, on part of the Iranian side, let's listen into what Abbas Araghchi has to say on the developments that has been taking place. However, Iran still continues to maintain that this is the initial round of the agreements. However, there is still a lot much more that still needs to be ironed out to actually bring this conflict to an end once and for all. Well, if there are indications, there have been indications before, but the conflict again resumes. So till the time a deal is actually finalized and signed is only when the world will actually believe. Thank you very much, Inja, for joining us here on the broadcast. We're going to head into a very short break. You're watching Times Now.